Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by interior designer and grief expert, Jeanette Chasworth. Jeanette focuses on designing beautiful spaces and designing to help you heal. She has a unique focus on what she does, or unique perspective. So we're going to be talking to her about everything she's up to and why she does what she does. The Color Whisperer. Jeanette, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here and tell you a little bit more about what I do and how it can help people.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
So I am a California girl, born and bred, and I fell in love with interior design and furniture when I was a little kid. And then I found out I could make money and make a living doing it. And that was like the greatest thing ever. And then I discovered color and just how impactful color is on us. And it's there all around us, having an impact on us. So why not make it a color that impacts you well? And then I learned something called the personality of color. And there's different personality types. Each one has its own specific colors, shapes, textures, and styles that enhance the personality type. And often we're a couple of them. So blending those together is really where my magic is. So while some designers might say, I design for your personality, which means show me a bunch of pictures you like, I actually come in and look at what your personality is, and I show you the beauty that's in you through the design that we create. So I tend to get people who are going through a lot of life changes. Maybe there's a death in the family, maybe it's divorce, empty nesting, and they're rediscovering who they want to be for the next part of their life. And I help them answer that question, and I show it to them. I show them themselves in their space. That gives them the foundation for the next part of their life.
Well, for those who might not be aware, just kind of explain to people what interior designing is and what it entails.
Absolutely. I get that question a lot, actually. So interior design it's selecting furniture for your home. It's selecting window treatments. It's paint colors. It's the right floor plan. One of the places I see people, they just don't have the training. The floor plan is not arranged well. Or what happens is people go into a store and they fall in love with a couch and they bring it home and it doesn't fit. And that's because they just don't have the expertise that designer does. So as a designer, we come in and we really create a space. And the way I do it especially is, how do you want to feel in this space? So in your bedroom, you may want to feel more relaxed. In your office, you want to feel more alert. In your living room or your family room, it may be more friendly, more creative. So how do you want to feel in this space? And that's what I work to create, is a room that is functional first, beautiful, and an extension of you.
So when you do your job, do you do it with new homes? Because I know you talked about floor planning or just new homes or.
Well, we all have furniture. So it doesn't matter if it's a new home or not. It could be a new to you. A lot of times your old furniture doesn't fit in the new home or the new to you home. And sometimes there are homes where like there's really only one way it will go. But a lot of times I find that people just don't have the right space plan, or just doing some things like moving a chair can make a huge difference.
So what kind of training do you have to go to be a professional interior designer? Is there any kind of training or you just know what you're
Oh,
doing?
yeah. Well, my mother trained me for many years, but I do have some official training. I graduated from the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. I belong to the American Society of Interior Designers, and they have certain qualifications to join. And I have passed a 3-day test with them called the National Council of Interior Design Qualifications. And I'm a certified interior designer. I am also certified color expert. I'm got a couple different ways I'm certified that way. And, as a designer, we're constantly doing more CEUs, continuing education units. I'm always learning. So the education never stops.
Apparently, I'm always learning because I didn't even know that there was professional designers out there.
There are a lot who aren't, but yes, there are a lot of us who are.
Well, tell us about it's one thing to be a professional designer and a color expert, but how did you incorporate things like spiritual healing, grief, recovery, PSTD, stuff like that?
One of my first big clients was recovering from grief. Personally, I've had a lot of grief in my life. It started when I was a year old. My father died. And so I've had to combat that in many ways. My parents are both gone, had a couple miscarriages. So I've been down many of those grief, clicked a lot of buttons on that grief box. But it's something that I've had to fight, discover how to cope with my entire life. When I was 26, I had asthma really bad, and I found a healer who was able to cure it. And what had happened was when my father died at a year old, I wasn't really, my brain wasn't really developed enough to process all of the grief. So I was stuck in that grief, and he was able to release it. And that was a very powerful moment for me. A few days later, I went home and I sobbed for 3 hours. And when I did, I went to grab a towel. And this voice inside me said, get the green towel. And when it was all done, I said, of course I needed green because green helps you deal with emotional change, which I certainly was going through. And so I looked at that and I said, wow, this is really powerful. And as I added more tools in my toolbox, and I got clients who were going through grief, and I saw how much this transformation of their home and the way I did it, it changed them. One of my clients said she hired me instead of a therapist because I was more fun. And her house had been decorated in the 60s by her husband's ex wife. There was nothing of her in it. And we needed to find out who she was for the next part of her life. And the house needed to reflect her. And that's what we did. And by the time we were done, she was dating, she was having parties at her house. I mean, she was very active socially. When we first started, she really wasn't leaving her house. So that's how impactful this can be. It's kind of like, how you feel in your favorite outfit, like you can take on the world. So imagine if your house could make you feel like that every day. How much more powerful would you feel?
Well, in your own words, tell us, go over the stages of grief, kind of break them down, each one and kind of tell us what each one means as a person goes through grief.
So you've got the first one, there's anger, denial. When we go through this whole process of like, it's not really real, right? And then you get through, and then from my design standpoint, so I'm well aware of the 5 stages grief and Kubler-Ross and all that, but I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint of your home and how it affects. So at first, you're just overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, this has really happened. How do I deal with this? There's a lot of stuff to clean up, and you're just hanging in there. But what happens when it's somebody really close to you as well is there's a hole that opens up in your heart, and you have to fill it. And how do you fill it? And when my mom died, what I realized is I fill it with more of me. My mom literally was in my DNA. She wasn't gone. She was still here, literally in my DNA. And everything she taught me and everything that, the strength that she gave me, that was still there. So I had to literally find more of me and all those wonderful characteristics that I loved in her, that I could find them in me. And that's how I filled the hole. And so that's one of the things that I help clients do, is fill that hole, because I'm showing them the best of them. So once after, you're going through all that, and at first, some clients, I want to sit in the chair. I can still smell the cologne or the cigarette smoke or whatever it is, because they want to feel close. But then after a while, it almost becomes like a ghost in the house. And they're looking around the house and they're looking at all these memories of a life that they don't have anymore, of a life that can't be anymore. And then they feel kind of lost. It's like, well, I'm not this person anymore. Okay, so who am I? And about the time when they call me is about this point. Who am I and who do I want to be? And they're looking at that chair like, it doesn't smell good anymore. That smell that I was craving earlier, it's like, no, I don't really like the cigarette smoke, or I don't really, they're like, maybe I need a chaise there, or maybe I need a sofa there. So they're really starting to reimagine, how do they live in the house now? Because it's different when you live in a house by yourself than when you live in your house as a couple. It's a very different dynamic. And taking the house back to express themselves, it's an expression of independence as well. And that's how I help them move through that process of, oh, I've got this empty hole to fill. I need to change something. I don't know what that is. And a lot of times when people call me, they've gone into a paint store or a furniture store or a tile store, and they're looking around and like, they're overwhelmed. They can't choose. So if you're suddenly single, I call it, and now you have to find, okay, who am I? There's so many choices out there. And it's kind of like a kid in a candy store. You want to try them all, but you can't really try them all. And they don't really have the energy to try them all. Or most people can't. You can't buy 10 chairs and, okay, let's try them and then let's send them back. It doesn't work that way. So I help them by narrowing down what feels good to them. And I'm showing them, this is the beauty of you. I'm just filling that cup. I'm filling that hole in the heart and showing them what is essentially them. And that's the healing. That's where the healing comes in. I also do energy healing. So for the clients who are open to it, I can do energy healing and help them through some of those difficult parts of the process.
Yeah, that was my next question. Explain what energy healing is and how that works, and in case there's people out there that are interested, because I know you also do them in person as well as virtual.
Yes, I do all of this in person or in virtual. The design can be done virtually as well. Well, I kind of explained a little bit about the grief from my father getting stuck in my lungs. And each organ has an emotion attached to it. And that's why we get chronic pain, and it can lead to cancer, is when that emotion gets stuck in there for a long time. That's when the body starts crying out, saying, hey, look at me. And instead of taking a pill to just say, oh, go away, just hides the pain. It doesn't necessarily solve the problem in most cases. What I'm doing with energy healing is figuring out what is the emotion that's stuck there. Sometimes we need to, sometimes we can find out the event that caused it. Sometimes we don't need to know what event caused it. We just need to get it out of the body. And when we clear that out of the body can heal. So it's like if you've got a river and there's a big rock or a tree or something in the river's got to go around it. It has to work harder. The river is your chi, your energy. But if you remove that rock, if you remove that tree, then the river can just flow smoothly. And that's when the body can heal, and it's amazing.
Do you have any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about?
Oh, I've got lots of projects. I have a online course that I'm working on, and what it does is it goes through what is your personality. I customize a book for you that has all of your elements. So this way, when you go to the store, whatever it is you're looking for, you're going to know, what do I need to look for? There's no more indecision. There's no more questions. It's a 3-month course. So I'm right there beside you to hold your hand and walk you through the process, whether you want to just rearrange your furniture or you're doing a remodel. This course can help you to see your house in its best light, to experience your house in its best light, and see yourself in your best light.
Okay, well, for those who want to get in contact with you and take part in what you're doing, I'll have you to help them, whether it be designing or grief or energy clearing. Go ahead and throw out your contact information.
Absolutely. It is thecolorwhisperer.com, just like the dog whisperer, the color whisperer. There's 2 ERs. And I would be very happy to help you in any way I can.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thecolorwhisperer.com. Close us out with some final thoughts, maybe something that I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts that you have for the listeners.
Just think, embrace color. Right now, I think we've had a lot of people, there's been a lot of fear of color over the last several years. And really look at, how do you feel in a space? And if it's not making you happy, it's time for change.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen, thecolorwhisperer.com. Be sure to check out Jeanette's work. Maybe you want to get her to help you do some designing or help you get rid of any kind of grief or trauma that you might have. Be sure to follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Jeanette, thank you for coming on today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.